ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Matt Swanton Band.
So, Matt Swanton Band. What's going on around town? Got a feeling that it's going down. You hear calling up the shit. Before you'll head down to your feet. You got that right. Oh, you got that right. Oh, things are showing there. Yeah, you got that right. Clap your hands into the beat. Shake your hips and stomp your feet. Come on, everybody, let's have a good time. Break you off a piece of something fine. Got that right. Oh, you got that right. Oh, things are showing there. Yeah, you got that right. Get tired, baby, don't you stop. Oh, pick it back up, don't let it drop. Need help, hold out your hand. Keep the sing going to the very end. Got that right. Oh, you got that right. Oh, things for sure, baby. Yeah, you got that right. Oh, you got that right. Oh, you got that right. Well, you got that right. Oh, you got that right. Oh, things to show, baby. Yeah, you got that right.
Hello and welcome to another special edition of Talkin' Tunes. I am your host, Frank Walsh. Thanks for tuning in today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have a special group of guys here who are going to blow you away from the time that we started the show, as you just seen, up until the end when they're going to be performing most of the songs off of their new CD. They are recent winners of the Boston Blues Society Blues Challenge, which qualifies them to go to Memphis, and they are in the process of releasing a new CD. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Matt, Ken, and Rob, the Matt Swanton Band. Hi, guys.
How's it going?
Thanks for being here today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Coming down from the North Shore, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm a little bit out west a little bit, but
Where were you?
I'm currently out in Winchendon right now.
Winchendon?
Yeah, cheaper rent out there.
That's where they usually put people on the witness protection program, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
Nobody watches the show. Nobody watches the show, so you're safe.
Yeah.
No, seriously, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
And also, big congratulations due for you guys because you've recently won the Boston Blues Society Challenge. And tough competition, as you know.
Yeah. It was a surprise to us. We didn't think we were gonna win.
A lot of killers on that
show.
show.
There was some great competition. And how did it feel when I stood up there and announced you guys as the winner? What was that initial visceral reaction?
Just
The heart
shock.
dropped.
Yeah. Shock.
Yeah?
Shock, relief a little bit. And, I'm super stoked about it.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your band and how you got together. And we'll kind of go up and down the line a little bit. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell the folks at home a little bit about Matt Swanton?
Yeah, well, my name is Matt Swanton. I started playing guitar at 9.
9.
Watching my dad we went to used to go to a church in Lunenburg, and he played in the folk group at the church, and I'd always try to be right in the front pew, and I gotta watch Dad, so
right.
And it was bound to happen at some point. So I eventually picked up the guitar, and we'd always go down to shows at the Bull Run. I think the first show I went there was, I believe, Bill Kirchen.
Okay, sure.
From Command Cody and Lost Planet Airmen.
Sure.
Great rockabilly band. But yeah, so that's where I did my studying, and then getting into high school, there's a couple of jams happening around at the Acton Jazz Cafe with Fran D'Agostino, the late great Fran D'Agostino, and that's kind of how I cut where I cut my teeth. Just going in and playing with all the older guys that had it under their fingers, and were kind of able to guide me a little bit, and that's kind of how I really just honed in my skills kind of there. But
cool.
And eventually I decided I kind of really wanted to do the blues thing. I was doing the rock thing for a while, which is actually kind of how I met Rob. But I was doing a rock band for a while, and it wasn't scratching all the itches, if you put it like that. But so I decided to start a blues band, and I originally had James Thomas doing drums, and then a good friend of mine, Jen Spangler, was playing bass, and then I eventually met Kenny through James, the original drummer. And then Kenny introduced me to another drummer, Doug played with us for a little bit,
Sure.
And he's still filling in every now and then. But I met Rob doing the rock band thing. Our original drummer had decided to part ways and go do a different career path, and we'd tried a couple different drummers, and one drummer he worked out, but he didn't really want to stay, so. I eventually actually met Rob through my girlfriend, but also a lot of the other bands in the scene around that area, particularly Young Other, another rock band from the Fitchburg area.
Cool.
We love Young Other.
We eventually got into a jam session with Rob, and it kind of really gelled well. And he was with the rock band for a little while. We did disband earlier this year, so. All focus is now on the blues band, which works out.
Cool.
Well, so.
We're going to come back to some of that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ken Edelman, bass player of the band. I'm kind of the probably least experienced musician in the band. I've only been doing this for 10 or 11 years, but I'm certainly the oldest in the band. I'm kind of the dad of the band. Whether I want to be or not.
Why do you say you're the least experienced?
Well, just I've only been playing 10 or 11 years, so
Okay.
And even that, it took a bit to get me up in front of people playing. So,
okay.
But I've taken to it rather nicely.
He's a quick learner, folks.
I'm trying.
So you picked up music late,
Yeah, I mean, I played a little guitar, very little guitar. Don't even ask. Little guitar and bass when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I kind of stopped when I was about maybe 15, and I put it down for a long time. I won't say how long, but I picked it up again, as I said. Encouraged a lot by the folks from the Ton of Blues that used to run a jam every Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah, I used to go to that one too.
Various places, and Jeff Lorenzen, the bass player from the Ton of Blues, is really the one responsible for getting me up in front of people
Jeff
playing.
The
the
Jeff
first time.
Lynne?
Lorenzen.
Oh, Loren. Okay, I was going to say Jeff Lynne. I mean, you had some
no.
good understudy there.
Yeah.
Our Jeff is even better.
So I mean, once I started doing it, once I got in front of people and started playing, I discovered I really liked it a lot, and
Awesome.
So kept going. So I also play with another band, the Mighty King Snakes. I've been with them for probably 5 years. I've been playing with Matt now for about 2.
Nice.
Both fun bands. I get different things out of each band, so because the style of music, it's all blues, but it's still a little different. So
Cool.
It's a good mix, and I'm just having fun with it.
Good for you. Drummer boy.
Oh, where do we begin? I started in life trying to do everything.
You were born a small child.
I was born a
You were
baby,
in a hospital
and I still
because
am.
you wanted to be near your mother.
It was a cold, dark, rainy night.
So I grew up as a theater kid. And I did musicals and stuff until I got to high school. I did every single show in high school. They gave me a little trophy for it. You could do 16 shows in 4 years, so they gave me a little trophy that said Sweet 16. While I was doing that, I like fell head over heels in love with playing the drums, and I really wanted to be in a metal band. So I'm in college for theater. I'm realizing that no matter what, like anything that I'm choosing to do in life, I'm going to be pretty broke. So I was like, well, let's like commit. Let's bite down and let's be a drummer. So I joined a metal band, and then from the metal band, I went on to a pop punk band, and then from the pop punk band, I ended up joining this band Safe Hill with Matt, and we had a lot of fun, like playing a lot of bars and some really cool shows, meeting some really cool people. But in between that, my buddy Jesse London, who's an amazing artist that you should all listen to, would bring me to the Hot Shot Sunday Blues Days. Those were hosted
The
by
one I'm talking about.
The one with
That's the one, yeah.
the house band for those events. James Thomas, their first drummer, was the guy who taught me how to play. Literally just took this spastic, ADD-riddled kid and was like, no, this is how you do it. Count. Just count.
And we come full circle.
Yeah. So you weren't one of those kids, who were in the garage and all of a sudden you heard Wipeout and started to, try to play Wipeout.
That was a lot of my high school, but none of it sounded like drums until I was around 20.
Really?
Like I got my first kit and just sort of like made it work. And then once I hit that spot where I felt like I sounded like me and could go out and like play drums for anybody, that's when I kind of started to lean into being a hired gun, which is sort of how I fell into Safe Hill. I was always kind of putting myself out and being like, hey, if you guys need like a fill-in, if you guys need like a long-term person, like let me play drums for you. I'm here to play drums. Mm-hmm. And like really the rest is history. I've been playing for, at this point, like from first kid, it's been like 15 years and I wouldn't change a thing.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I love what I do.
Now, how would you describe your music? If you were to put a label on your music, I mean,
dope.
You played from some tradition. You play some traditional blues,
Yeah,
and then
but
you have a little spin on it.
Well, so
put a label on your music.
I always grew up listening to like a lot of the rock stuff. Especially like the stuff from like the late '60s and the early '70s, like that kind of
classic rock
classic
rock. Yeah.
So Zeppelin, Smith, Trower, Hendrix, and all that good stuff. So I kind of
get into Roy Buchanan at all?
I like Roy, yeah. He wasn't one that I listened to like frequently, but as a guitar player, he's one that I've come across that like
Jeff Healey.
I can really appreciate. Oh,
I can see Jeff Healey. I can see Jeff Healey in your music.
Oh, I love Jeff Healey. He's awesome.
The late great,
awesome.
yeah.
What it would have been to see him. I
had Anthony Gerasi. You might know Anthony Gerasi, the keyboard player. He's been on my show a few times.
Yeah.
And he played a lot with him, and he told some great stories about his experiences with Jeff Healey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, what it would have been to see him. But yeah, it just comes listening to a lot of that stuff. Some of like the kind of the British rock blues, and then some of like some of the Texas stuff that kind of borders on rock. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of I kind of always had a liking to like that. Keeping the traditional blues vibe alive, but adding that rock edge, a little louder guitar, some more aggressive vocals.
Yeah.
So I try not to play too many notes, but sometimes I like to get a little crazy.
I was going to say, you touched on it a little bit. What was that seminal moment? Did you have a moment where you either heard a song or saw an artist and said, I want to do that. Yes. I want to be like him.
So actually,
what was that seminal moment?
So when I started guitar, so I was 9 years old when I started, and I was coming from more of a chordal background.
Okay.
So I never really, I didn't really intend on being a lead guitar player. I really just wanted to learn how to play some power chords and just be able to rock
play
out.
some rhythm. Yeah.
And then it was probably about a year or two, probably a couple of years into guitar. My guitar teacher at the time, the late Lou Sheen, rest in peace. I'd come into guitar practice, and he said, "I just want to show you something." And so we put on Stevie Ray Vaughan's "Texas Flood."
Wow!
And I heard that, and I was just like, "Whoa!"
That was the moment.
And the light bulb went on. Like, "Yep, that's it. That's the one. That's the one." And then from there, just snowballed, and Johnny Winter and Robin Trower, and then getting into some of the more acrobatic stuff like Eric Johnson and Steve Vai, some of the crazy shred stuff, and I eventually came to here at this point here.
What about Yngwie? Did you get into Yngwie at all?
I was never really that into the whole '80s metal rock vibe.
Okay.
I liked a few bands here and there, but for the most part, the '80s thing wasn't really my vibe.
Because quite a few guitarists have been on here before, and they always drop his name. They'll drop the usual names, but they'll throw Yngwie. What's this? Neil? I can't screw up his last name. Yngwie Nielsen.
Malmsteen.
Yeah, I always screw up his
like
last name.
Like Swedish or something like that.
Yeah, I always
something
screw up his name.
But I mean, I can appreciate his skill level. I can definitely appreciate that, and not my cup of tea. But But the '80s thing was a little hit or miss for me. But I was always drawn to like the '60s, '70s rock vibe, and then like getting into like maybe some of like the prog rock stuff too.
Cool.
Like the Steve Vai stuff.
Cool.
But yeah.
Now, what about as a bass player? Who was your influence, or anybody that hit you and said, "Wow"?
I listened to a lot of Jethro Tull growing up.
Uh-huh.
John Glasscock was their bass player for a long time. I know. I listened to a lot of Dead as well. So Phil Lesh.
Sure.
I wish I could play like Phil, but I can't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so my musical background was I listened to a lot of different stuff in the '60s and '70s. That era, the Allman Brothers, huge influence. I love them. Jeff Beck. Like I said, Tull,
Yeah.
a big
A lot
mix.
of the traditionalists.
A lot of the Cream, bands like that that I listened to a ton growing up, and I liked stuff during the '80s too, like the Talking Heads and things like that. There was definitely bands I liked later on, but the '60s, '70s rock kind of was really stuck me where
What
it
about
counts.
you, Rob? Same with you?
Yeah, my tastes are like pretty basic as far as rock drummers go. Like the top drummers for me have always been Travis Barker, Trey Cool, Mitch Mitchell, Ringo. More Ringo than anybody. I've been a Beatles fan since I was
flown
like
under
2.
the radar a lot. I mean, it took a while for him to get out and really appreciate his style of play because I guess it's very unique and
He's the ultimate less is more player.
Yeah. Right.
He doesn't need to play the most intricate fill. He just plays the right fill.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah, because I mean, I saw a video of him one time, and they were differentiating him with other people and talking exactly how you did, like the less is more, and sometimes not filling in, leaving the hole, leaving it empty, and they were comparing and contrasting him with some of the other great drummers, and then it really kind of caught my ear because I was a huge Beatles fan, Beatles fan, but. You did all rock. Now, did you get into any other kind of music? Did one of you mention jazz or something? No?
I was a frustrated jazz fan coming out of college. Kind of blue. I'm a perennial dabbler too, so it was a lot of like playlists and stuff. I volunteered at a jazz camp, which was funny because like I had imposter syndrome. I'm sitting down teaching these kids how to play a style I have no idea how to do properly. I can barely read charts. I'm just going like, no, kids, see, it's easy. But,
just do this.
But if not for that, I wouldn't have grown to appreciate Miles Davis. I think Milestones is one of the best standards that's ever been played. If I'm ever feeling like I'm not at my best, I'll sit down and I'll play along to that. Having said that, though, I think the best like live playing ever is Jeff Beck's Live at Ronnie Scott's record.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, Vinny is an amazing drummer. I'm glad he's still like around. He like reinvented the wheel as far as drumming goes. I wish I'd spent more time like delving into like my history. Like I wish I was more into blues and roots and everything when I'd gotten started, but I'm perfectly content with where I am, and everything I find now from being in this band, I'm like finding love for it.
Now, how easy or difficult is it to make that transition? I mean, I've known some pure blues drummers who have a very difficult time transitioning into rock bands, and vice versa.
It's a transition.
What's the difference? Put it into, talk to me like I'm a 2-year-old and explain the difference between drumming for jazz or drumming for blues or drumming for rock.
It's tough, but not. It's a lot like what Matt said. it's learning when to play less notes.
Okay.
James, like from the grip, always taught me that you always want to be not the worst player in the room, but the best to play with. You're not playing like by yourself and there's people with you. You're playing for the tune.
Okay.
So I still find myself having these moments where, and they'll be not shy enough to tell me too, where I gotta dial down a little bit because the tune's calling for something, and if we're not on mark with it, like the crowd's gonna know.
Yeah.
Like every musician has imposter syndrome, but crowds know better than anybody. The second something's not there, everybody can see it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing worse than when you think you're killing it, when you think you're putting on a clinic, and you look up and it's like an audience of like the phone screens lighting them up, so they're all in that pale blue, and you can tell they're waiting for the tune to be done. So in the spirit of not experiencing that with these fine players, we dial down. We play less notes.
Okay. How easy was it for you guys to gel? You know, when you got together and you finally said, okay, you know, we're going to be a trio. How easy or difficult was it for you guys to gel?
We did
Where,
two practices
a lot
before
of
the first
practice and
before the
I mean,
competition.
It wasn't,
yeah.
it wasn't a terrible amount of effort. I mean, yeah, it was just you know, kind of that trying to find where we all meet. I mean, you know, me and Ken being from a similar musical background kind of helped, and then, you know, Rob having the kind of the basics there, and just, you know, like, hey, we'll have a little less here and then a little more here, but, you know, kind of finding where we all meet well. But,
okay.
Yeah, but
And
we
you write
meshed
some
pretty
songs.
quickly,
You write some songs too, right?
Yeah.
You write.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
play a lot of covers.
Yeah.
Where do you draw your music? How do you decide what songs you're going to play? You know, say, okay, you know, we can kill this one. Let's stay away from that. How do you draw to put your sets together and where you're going to be going with your music? How do you pull?
I mean,
Is that collective?
It's-
A collective?
I guess I would say I do more of the writing.
The writing.
Or at least from a conceptual point, and then we all get it in a room, and you know, I try not to do the, you know, hey, Ken, play this and Rob, play this. You know, I just, hey, this is what I have, and then, you know, Ken fills in on the bass and Rob fills in on the drums. You know, I really like that kind of collaborative nature, because I mean, a band really shouldn't be any one person say, hey, this is how it goes.
Right.
You know, I just kind of like to, you know, hey, you know, play what you think is appropriate to the tune, and
At the
and,
same
and
time,
if it doesn't
you know,
sound good, then, you know, be like, hey, let's adjust this here. But
Right.
but for the most part, I just try to keep it organic and not too formulaic.
What about pulling from a catalog? You know, when you say, okay, we're gonna cover this song, we're gonna cover that song. How do you go about doing that, and how do you decide on what songs you're going to play?
I think it's just kind of just like, hey, I like this. I wish I could make it sound more complicated than it is, but it's just hey,
You hear it and you like it.
this sounds
cool
cool.
song,
Let's do
let's
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, that kills about 10
Yeah,
follow-up
yeah.
questions. You know?
I mean, yeah, you know, it's
Talk among yourselves for a little bit.
Well, you know, it's trying to stay in that theme of you know, doing stuff that's going to keep the blues purists happy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, something that still kind of fits our rock edge.
But we also do some, you know, different things. The
Yeah.
couple of psychedelic tunes. as
Yeah,
we
we
call
have
them.
we
like
have,
to mix
we have
it
a
up
portion
little
of
bit.
our set we like to call the psychedelic portion.
Like what? What do you
of the
play?
Set. So it's Bridge of Sighs with Robin Trower.
Trower, sure.
Into a song by this newer band, and they're actually more of a stoner metal kind of a band.
Okay.
But they have a bluesy touch to them, you know, because they come from a Memphis background, having kind of that blues Americana, you know, vibe in them, but still being loud rockers. And they have a slow blues song it's not the standard, you know, 1-4-5 blues
Okay.
formula. It's got kind of a unique progression to it.
Yeah.
But it's a really great song, The Marriage of Coyote Women.
Marriage of Coyote Women.
But really great band. All of them witches. Highly recommend them for those that like a little bluesy vibe, but really cranked up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, where do you want to take your music? Because you've been together for how long now?
Couple of years.
A couple years now.
Where do you want your music to go? You know, kind of know where you are. What's next for you? And also, you know, you're a three-piece band. I mean, you kill it as a three-piece. Or any thought, or do you at times have a fill-in and get
We
a
do-
harmonica player, get a keyboard player?
We do at times use a keyboard player. When we're around this area, we have Paul Nadeau. I mean, I'm still I'm always looking for new music. Always looking to make friends and have new musicians. Because I mean, at some point when this becomes profitable enough, I would like to tour with a keyboard player. I do like having the 4-piece format. It just fills in and allows me to not have to worry about keeping the rhythm part, and I can kind of just do the BB King, sing a little bit, play a little bit, sing a little bit. Sometimes that's nice to do. But.
Now you talk about your music. I'm assuming that you are all independently wealthy and retired, so you can focus all of your time on music. Because
No.
More so, I like to live like I'm on vacation already.
Right. I always say that I could live like a king the rest of my life. The problem is I'd have to die tomorrow.
Definite starving artist here.
You all have jobs. I know you have a couple of jobs. You have a couple of jobs,
so.
and I know you do a lot of work at the Bull Run.
Yeah.
What do you do at the Bull Run?
I do live sound, so I run the monitor
Nice.
board. It's a split setup there, so we have an independent board for the front of house, and then we have a separate board for the monitors. So I do the monitors so that the musicians can hear themselves.
Cool. Are they going to book you there?
Yeah. Well, actually, so we do have
play
one.
there.
I believe we're going to be there that Wednesday, November 9th. So second Wednesday of the month.
Cool.
They have like a little blues thing in the tap room.
Yeah.
So we're not going to be in the big room. But,
Cool. I know you have some other jobs if you want to talk about that. Doesn't matter to me.
It's not that exciting. It's
all right. Okay.
boring day job.
We'll leave that alone.
Yeah.
What about you, Kenny?
Actually, I am retired.
I know you are. Yeah.
And this has now become.
I didn't think you could retire at 40.
Yeah, I wish.
It's called suck up.
Several levels.
This is suck up to the guest portion of the show.
Yeah, no, that fell really short, Frank. No, I actually just retired about 6 months ago. I was an aerospace engineer.
Really?
Yeah, and spent
He's the smart one of the
enough time doing that I didn't want to do it anymore. So
Nice.
It became possible for me not to do that, and so I'm not doing that anymore.
Wow. So what would we be familiar with? We can say, oh, I put that rocket up in space,
Well,
or I worked on that jet system.
The company I worked for made main oil pumps for aircraft engines.
Cool.
So Airbus A350 XWBs, my pump.
Cool.
Exciting
Where'd you go to
stuff
school?
I went to Northeastern for my engineering degrees.
Couldn't get into a good one, huh? You had to settle?
Nope.
State schools were filled, huh?
Yeah.
I went right down the street from you at Boston State back in the day.
Yeah,
I had a choice between Northeastern and Boston State, but I wanted to be a teacher. But you were down on Huntington Ave?
Huntington Ave, yeah.
Did you live in Boston?
No, actually, at that point, I was a commuter student. I was
okay.
living with my future wife at that point in Quincy.
Right.
And graduated, got married about 3 weeks later.
Nice.
Haven't looked back since.
Good for you. Good for you.
So
you had mentioned some labor work, right?
Yeah.
Got some blisters on those fingers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right now, I'm the production manager at the Worcester Palladium.
Nice.
But yeah, it's my dream gig. Like, it's the place I played my first professional shows. I kind of like tripped and fell into working with a great team at my favorite venue. But I've had so many other jobs because music always came first, or theater always came first. I sat down on the porch with a couple friends of mine the other day. It was right after band practice. I'm in a band called Have Fun. Check us out. We counted every job I've ever
Shameless
had.
plug, ladies and gentlemen.
So shameless, we're so broke. Please buy a t-shirt. We counted every job I ever had, and we hit
broke too, aren't
55.
you?
And that's not like grabbing a gig anywhere. I'm a contractor now, but I'm talking like hired at a place, W-9 filled out, worked at least the first day. We've been talking about launching a podcast for it because I have so many of these jobs and so many stories that I could fill. How much time do we have? I could just start.
Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you think about some of those stories? We're going to come back and pick up on a little bit. But folks, I think it's time maybe to take a little break, and rather than talk about their music, maybe you should sit back and listen to them play a little bit. So you are now going to hear the Matt Swanton Band, and we'll be back when they are through.
Hard time living, early girl. You know it's hard time and hard town will last so long. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Everything happened, better than so. You know it's hard down, it's slow. If I don't get off of this, kill and throw. You know this all down, don't kill me slow. Ooh, This is a little traditional called Half a Mind that we wrote. I got half a mind to leave you, baby. but the other I can leave alone. If you ain't gonna use my heart, why you go get a dog a bone? Well, I can't figure out why you wanna treat me this way. All I do is work hard for you every single night and day. That's why I got one foot out the door. Every time I go give you my heart, why I go lying on the floor? Go find me a new home. Well, I'm gonna leave you, baby. I'm gonna go find me a new home. 'Cause by now it's pretty cute, darling, and you ain't gonna get this dog alone. Oh, good dog, come on, baby. This is a little song about how we all just need to get along. People all around the world, we all a little bit different. Say that we live, really all heaven sent. Yeah, we all need a little patience. We all need a place to call home. This head in your heart, I'm gonna tell you. Y'all need to get along. And you know that it's true. I try to say about who you are. It's just about how you do. Yeah, we all need a little Christmas. We all need a place to call home. Just head in your heart, I'm gonna tell you. Y'all need to get along. Take a look in the mirror before you put others on track. And it's so amazing how much you get done if you will reach across the aisle. Yeah, thank you. This one's called Roses. Actually, no, sorry. This one, we're not going to do Roses yet. We're going to do In My Time of Dying. Let's do In My Time of Dying. In my time of dying, don't want nobody to mourn. All I want you to do is take my body home. Well, 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 so I can die easy. Well, 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 so I can die easy. Well, 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 so I can die easy. Just go making my dying bed. Maybe Jesus meet me in the middle of the air. If my wings should fail, Lord, won't you meet me with another pair? well, 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 so organize. Well, 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 so organize. Well, 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 so organize. Do the score making, do the score making, do the score making, my dying bed. Well, it's my time of dying. Don't want nobody to cry. All I want you to do is take my body when I die. Well, 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 so I can die. Well, 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 so I can die. Well, 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 so I can die. Just go making, just go making, just go making my dying bed. Just go making, just go making, just go making my dying bed. Just go making, just go making, just go making, just go making my dying, dying, dying bed. All right, this one's called Roses, a little traditional 12-bar we wrote.
Do you remember the golden rule? Oh, you once got me packed for fool, 'cause that ain't me, babe. No, that ain't me, babe. No, it ain't me that leaving. Yours that is out your door. I saw those letters you were gonna send. All you can say is he's just a friend. That ain't me, babe. No, that ain't me, babe. No, they need that leaving. Yours that is out your door. But you're a liar. The whole of us still smoking your pants on fire. 'Cause that ain't me, babe. No, that ain't me, babe. No, they need that leaving. Close outside your door. That ain't me, babe. That ain't me, babe. That ain't me, babe. That ain't me, babe. Need that leaving. Close outside your door.
Oh man, we're gonna do our last one right now. I'd like to thank Frank for having us on the show. It's been so much fun coming here, playing for you guys and chit-chatting. So we're gonna leave you with this one. It's our take on a little classic called Catfish.
Well, I wish I were a catfish, swimming in the deep blue sea. Oh, I have all you pretty woman fishing after me, fishing after me, yeah. Fishing after me. I go down my girlfriend's house, and I sat down on the front step. She said, "Come here, won't you, darling? My husband just now left. My husband just now left, yeah. Said he just now left." two trains running, but there's no train line coming my way. No, one train leaves at midnight, oh, the one way just for me, oh, the one way just for me, oh, the one way just for me, yeah. Baby, just for me, yeah.
Wow, boys.
This is fun. It's really fun.
Nicely done. Nicely done. You know, I'm sure you enjoyed that. I told you these. There's a reason these guys are going
I
to
didn't
Memphis.
curse.
You didn't curse.
once.
You know what's
Oh,
funny?
man, I'm paying a guy to sit at the bleep button.
Take two.
Go
Hey,
home.
do you know Morse code?
Go home, you know. We have to pay union wages.
You guys were a union house?
So this guy
No.
walked into the
Is he that easy to fool? Is he?
Why do you think I've had so many jobs, man?
That's funny. That's funny. So let's roll the clock back a little bit as far as playing in gigs. You know, the pandemic, I'm sure, set you back a little bit. I'm assuming, like it did so many musicians. And what's going on out there in the world as far as getting gigs? Is it easy, difficult? What's going on?
It's coming back.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's definitely getting better every week for sure. There was a period of time where I wasn't sure if it was going to improve, but it started with the outdoor stuff. Some venues started to do some outdoor stuff.
A lot of breweries and farms.
Yeah,
have
a lot
started doing music.
a lot of breweries and farms
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
A lot of
And then
cold outside
slowly as the regulations started to lift, the indoor stuff started coming back.
Right. Because I've noticed that, from talking with many people, Ken, you can probably identify with this. We're probably in the same ballpark. I think we both served wine at the Last Supper, didn't we?
Close.
Yeah, you were the guy next to Jesus?
Why'd you guys all sit like that?
Yeah, I knew we
Other
were.
side of the table.
They cut us out of the picture, though. But I noticed that a lot of clubs around our area play at like 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and I think especially the blues audience, they're an older crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of people aren't going out as much as they used to later times.
Yeah.
Now, from the bull run and from your experience, make a question out of that. And what's going on?
It's weird, and it varies it tends to vary by area too.
Okay.
Sometimes when you get into more like the kind of like the city bars, especially like
The cities,
around,
I can see it makes
around
sense with the
Worcester,
college
yeah,
kids
you
and the
tend to have
the
later
younger crowd. Yeah.
and not even necessarily a younger crowd either. It's just for whatever reason, it seems that people are more willing to go out later within the city. Where once you start coming out here more, the crowds tend to drop off like kind of right around 10:30.
Yeah.
Depending on where you are, of course, there's always that one or two couple bars that actually get the later crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But I do notice around the lesser populated areas, the earlier show times tend to do well. Usually the bull run starts at if it's in the bigger room, it's like an 8 o'clock show.
Yeah, so that's
then,
doable.
and then
that's doable.
the Wednesday one, the dining room that we're doing coming up, is actually a 6:30 one, and it's done by 9. So,
Yeah.
So, but it can be really hit or miss.
Yeah.
It's just really
So I know
just
some of the
varies.
places around the South Shore, they rolled back like the C Note, which is hopefully where you guys will be playing sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to play there.
They used to play, and I guess at the time it was more by demand. They'd play at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then it started to dwindle a little bit, and they started rolling it back to like 8:30, which means they still start at 9. But at least they're getting people in there, and I've noticed a scarcity of fannies in the seats.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be tough to get people to come out sometimes.
Yeah,
But
and I think it's some of the places too is that I've heard that quite a few people go to places, and many places in the past have not charged covers. So people would go there, listen to the music, and have a glass of water.
yeah.
And the venue would suffer,
Yeah.
So and then people started to charge maybe $5, $10 to get in, and then some of those people say, "Hey, I never had to pay before."
Yeah.
So I mean, do you guys feel that stuff? Like,
yeah.
Actually,
when you're out there booking,
so
do they put the
actually-
demands on you? How many people can you bring?
So sometimes there's the a little bit of pressure from the venues to draw a certain amount, but it's actually kind of funny. I noticed this pattern where it gets harder to put people in the seats if you're charging like $10 to get in, but then you do a no cover show, you throw the tip jar out, and people are throwing 20s in there anyway. It's kind of weird. It almost seems that people become more generous when they don't have to pay to get in.
That makes sense. Okay.
Even though if it was a $10 ticket charge, I mean, chances are they're going to throw that in the tip jar anyway. So does it really matter? But yeah, for whatever reason,
Good point.
Psychologically, though, it seems
it might be just a psychological
hit them at the door,
thing,
then turn around and walk out.
Good
but
point.
yeah,
by
no,
you.
it definitely it does seem that the culture has changed a little bit, and it's getting harder to put butts in the seat.
Yeah.
Well, part of that also is, I mean, we play in a lot of bars, obviously,
Right.
and 30 years ago, nobody cared if you drank a ton in a bar and then drove home.
Exactly. Right.
These
That's
days,
another point
it's
too.
a little
The
different
safety
attitude.
and the driving.
So
right.
people come in, they'll have a drink or two, maybe two drinks, and then it's like, okay, well, we're done, and they leave early, or they don't come out at all, whatever. But
Right.
it's
Right.
the whole bar scene, I think, is different than it was when we were younger.
Exactly. Now, you guys, again, other than you and I, Ken, you guys are,
leave.
no, you guys, you kind of like the younger generation, and you were the guys who are carrying the torch, if you would, for the blues. And how would you compare or contrast the blues that you were influenced by? Your B.B. Kings, your Buddy Guys, I mean, all the legends, all of those, versus the blues of today. Now, I have heard mixed stories from both sides. The older generation, the traditional blues, will knock the new generation. And then you get the new generation kind of knocking some of the traditionalists, calling it evolution, calling it growth.
Yeah.
Respond to that.
There's definitely a spectrum of it. You definitely have the blues purists, that they don't like anything too loud, not too much distortion,
Too many notes.
and too many
notes.
notes.
I hear a lot of time. Too many notes.
Oh, that's
too many
fast.
notes.
So you have that, and then you have the guys that are like, oh, it's too traditional. Oh, that sounds boring. It's just the same 1-4-5. And then you have somewhere like me in the middle where it's like I like the straight ahead traditional blues stuff, and I like the the more off the wall kind of rocky stuff. So I don't know. For me, I feel like the blues of today and the blues of the future is really just going to be an amalgamation of of traditional blues with other various styles. Whether
it almost seems like it's blues rock.
Yeah.
Blues and rock seem to be fusing.
That definitely
is.
seems to be the case. And then in the smaller groups, you might get people that have a more jazzier approach to the blues. But yeah, I tend to focus on the more rockier stuff.
What do you think on that? What's your thoughts?
Well, it's tough, right? Because
you have to keep, you're the backbone there,
Yeah. Well, it's hard because gatekeeping is going to be a thing in music no matter what, because music is this beautiful thing that's been around for all this time. And personally, I hear a lot more older heads knocking young heads these days.
Right.
But that's also because I work with a lot of young bands that come through my spot, and their touring crew are all old dudes who have been through it. They saw the glory days. These guys lived through the 80s. It doesn't get better than that. But really, I think now you have to be equal parts historian and fortune teller, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, because without the basic principles of blues, you're just playing R&B. And if you're not really trying to progress, are you doing anything for this culture? Are you doing anything for the genre? If we just sit and play B.B. King covers until the year 3000, I don't think we're really doing anything for the culture.
I agree.
I think it's all about a balance of honoring what came before, but then doing your part to push it forward.
Absolutely.
And do something new.
Where do you think it's going to go? Do you think it's going to go more into the bluesy area? Do you think it's going to be more rock? And 20, 30 years from now, what kind of stuff are we going to be hearing?
I feel the younger generation tends to push towards a less traditional approach, and I even found this with I'll say, I'll tell someone my age I play the blues. I don't really like the blues. I'm like, well, do you like Led Zeppelin? Well, yeah, sure. Do you like Aerosmith? Well, yeah, sure. Do you like Jimi Hendrix? Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, that's all the
blues.
blues. It's just rockier blues.
Right. Now, has there been a delineation of, and if not, maybe there should be, a delineation of where that line was drawn where you can go traditional blues and modern blues?
I think a lot with the 80s revival.
In the 80s, that's where it started,
I
you
think that 80s revival, because I mean, yeah, you had the 60s, like the Stax records and stuff like
Right,
that.
right.
That's pretty straight ahead. But yeah, I think that whole 80s revival where you started having, like Steve Ray Vaughan, and Jimi Hendrix kind of started in '69, so the late '60s, early '70s. Yeah, you started having that kind of that rock blues kind of thing with some of the the British bands. But I think especially so in the '80s too, you had some like really rocked up blues stuff.
Would it be safe? Would it just popped into my head? Would it be safe to say that if you had to stop and think about the music to identify it, that it's not blues, not traditional blues?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, well, yeah.
Right? That if you have to think, if you have to pause and say, then it's not traditional blues.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think traditional blues, when you hear it, you know it.
Yeah, it's
you
it's
know
a, it's a vibe.
So you almost have to kind of think through it a little bit and say, is this, it's playing a bluesy style, but it's got a rock feel,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Does
mean,
that
we're
make
definitely
sense?
not a traditional blues
Yeah, no,
band,
definitely not.
but we do
Right,
play
right.
a couple of songs that have been around for 80 years
Exactly.
or whatever.
I mean, you have to.
and
That's
we just put our
sometimes people
spin
go
on
to
it.
see that.
Yeah,
People
yeah.
go to see
but
that.
but we don't necessarily play it the way they played it 80 years
Exactly.
ago. So it's
Exactly.
still, we've kind of made it. Well, Matt mostly has made it his own.
Exactly.
You know who else does a great job carrying the torch? COVID sucked, but one of the best things, COVID was terrible, but one of the best things about it was that I discovered this artist, Jackie Venson. She's a player from, I believe she's from Austin, or she might be from Nashville. It escapes me, but she started putting out live streams every day. And her playing was always inherently bluesy, but she could take the stuff to space. She just put out this beautiful record called Live from Austin with Love. And the first track is a traditional blues song where the band's not playing for the first like 2 turnarounds. Like they're doing a 12 bar, but like the band's not there. She's just kind of like singing, bass drum is keeping time. And once the band kicks back in for the end of that second turnaround, you realize, oh, this is blues. But the whole time you'd swear you were listening to like a beautiful soul singer or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Jackie Venson definitely
I
carries
think
the
that
torch
name
well.
rings a bell. I might have seen some of her stuff out there,
I wouldn't
on
be
Instagram
surprised.
maybe or Facebook.
Yeah,
what
she
about
gets
some of the
around.
young guns that have come up, like Kingfish?
Yep.
You
Oh,
get
man.
Kingfish.
Yeah,
And you
Kingfish,
get Trombone Shorty.
Quinn
you get
Sullivan's great.
Quinn Sullivan.
Oh man, yeah, it's always encouraging.
Quinn Sullivan's a local kid.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he
He's
did
a
come
local
from
kid. He's from like
South Shore, right?
Yeah, Braintree, Quincy.
Yeah.
He's a friend of a friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
I asked
awesome.
him to come on my show when he was first starting to play, maybe roll back maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And he was still, but he didn't. He said he didn't feel comfortable enough. I said, whenever you're ready, come on.
And actually,
look at him now.
And I think Quinn Sullivan's a great example of that whole pushing the blues forward, because
Okay.
you listen to his earlier stuff and he was kind of doing that more John Mayall, Eric Clapton-y
Right,
style
right.
blues. And all of his later stuff, the more recent stuff, is really starting to push more
Right.
towards the R&B pop thing,
Right.
while still maintaining that blues soul.
Right.
So I think that's a great example of pushing the blues forward.
Cool.
But yeah, I love seeing young guys come up, like Kingfish. He's what a talent he is.
What
Unbelievable.
advice would you guys give? If you were sitting here holding a master class in front of a bunch of high school kids or grammar school kids, and they all wanted to be musicians and they wanted to play the blues, what advice would you give them if you were holding that class? What advice would you give to young musicians
Just
these
do
days?
what feels right. Just do what feels right to you as an artist, because if you try to make a music career out of playing music that doesn't necessarily speak of you, but you think will appeal to other people, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's going to be very obvious that you don't have your heart in the music, that you're playing music that your heart isn't in it. And I see this all the time with these pop stars that they start out as young aspiring pop musicians, and they're doing all this music that's being fed to them by the machine, and then they develop a successful career, and then they get to a point in their career where now they can do the music that they like, and it's like all their old stuff. I was like, sounds like cookie cutter pop.
Wow.
All their new stuff is like, oh, okay, I can actually start to hear this person's soul in the music. So really, just do what's honest to you. Don't try to play music that just to appease other people. You got to do it for yourself first, or it's not worth doing.
I'm sure you'll agree with that, but you want to add anything to that, Ken?
Well, again, I came from a slightly different background than these guys did, so my first thought when you asked that question was I would tell them to get a job. Honestly.
Yeah, don't do it
Because,
for the money.
no, seriously, because,
Do it for love, not money, right?
Yeah,
You got to
because
do it for the love.
There's very few people who really make a living or
True.
The rock stars out there are very limited in numbers compared to the people who pick up a guitar or pick up a whatever. So, have a fallback basically. But yeah, I think what Matt said is true. It's gotta come from inside you. If you're not feeling it, you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
If it's not making you feel good and making, that's why you do it.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's really just about honoring the agreement you make with yourself. When I was a kid, the agreement wasn't I'm going to be rich and famous. It wasn't that I'm going to be successful. It's that I was going to be a drummer because I love to play the drums. So you really just have to honor that agreement you make with yourself. If you love doing it, you're not doing it to make a living. You're doing it because you're here to do that and express that side of yourself.
Right. Well said. Now, you'd mentioned listening to other people. If I went out into your car and, turned on your radio or opened up your CD box, what would be playing in your CD?
I'm a very, very, very big Humble Pie fan.
Humble Pie.
Peter Frampton is one of my favorite guitar players. I got to see him in 2019. My mom took me to see Peter Frampton at the Rockland Trust.
I saw him a couple years ago.
Unbelievable show.
Unbelievable
show. He to me is just one of the epitomes of taking so many different styles of at the time modern music, and because I've heard him talking about this in multiple interviews, but when he was coming up. Everybody was starting, Cream became big. And so everybody was doing like that kind of thing,
right.
the Brit rock blues kind of a thing. And Peter Frampton sat down and said, well, everybody's doing the rock thing. Why don't I take the blues and go into a jazzier direction with it? And so you listen to, Humble Pie, and yeah, it sounds like the Brit rock, but you listen to his solos and his note choicings, it's very jazz approach to it.
Right.
Which I always just really appreciated.
Yeah, he's great.
Peter Frampton would be a big one. Eric Gales is someone that I'm following right now. Love his playing. He just has a very big personality in his playing.
I think he's on tour. I think he might be coming around this way.
Yeah, he's coming around this way. And I actually did him. I think he came by the Bull Run in August this year. It was very, very recently this year, and that's just one of those shows. Every time he comes around, just absolutely blows my mind.
Cool. One quick thing, and then we'll move on. It's Joe Bonamassa. Where does he rank in your pantheon?
I like Joe.
Mixed feelings about Joe.
Well, so I like Joe. I think sometimes it gets a little bit too shreddy for me.
Yeah.
Because and this is what I appreciate about Eric Gales is he can play all those notes, and he does do it. But he also knows when to breathe a little bit. And so I think that's where sometimes Joe loses me a little bit, is maybe a little bit too much of look what I can do.
Too many notes.
A little, I not to sound like a purist, because I'm not a blues purist by any means. So but I like him as a guitar player, and I like his music. I think that's kind of where it falls off for me a little bit. Is sometimes it's like, okay, I've heard you do that run, but let the notes breathe too.
Bonamassa was a prodigy, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So this guy's just been doing a victory lap for like 30 years. Leave him alone.
There's a little commercial.
What's in your CD box, Ken?
Well, a lot of the same kind of stuff that Matt was talking about. I still listen to the Dead. I still listen to the Allman Brothers.
Who doesn't?
Kenny Wayne Shepherd, I listen to.
Kenny Wayne,
my wife is a big influence on that one because she loves Kenny Wayne Shepherd.
I think Kenny Wayne's coming around here.
Yeah, we've seen him
soon.
Twice already.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, when I'm in my car, usually it's NPR that's on. And again, that's the difference between, the
Gotcha. I'm
Dad.
with you.
He's the smart one of the group.
I'm with you.
It's Dad and the kids.
It's great, though, because I'm an airhead and Rod's an airhead. So he keeps us airheads in line.
I do hurt
I'm a
cats
blockhead,
little
sir.
bit.
In this corner, wearing the red shirt.
All right, I'll wear knucklehead proudly. I got you.
What do you listen to?
What am I listening to? Right now, it's a lot of Black Sabbath. I just joined a band called Bass Sabbath. We're a two-man Black Sabbath tribute group.
Wow.
Bass player is the singer. Doesn't mean Ozzy. Bass Sabbath. Check us out. A lot of Jackie Venson. She's one of my favorite contemporary artists. But there's this band called The Color 8 that I've really fallen in love with the last couple months. They're a multi-talented, multi-genre quartet from Arizona. They have a few albums out. There's a really good funk album. They have a very good hardcore album. And they have singles in between that just sort of like span the whole musical, spectrum. Just great four-piece band. They switch off vocals, and that'll determine like what kind of music they're playing that day. The Color 8. They're very, very, very good.
Cool. Now, other than you, Rob, we dropped a lot of guys' names. There's some very talented female artists out there. What female artists, performers strike your fancy?
Well, so let's see. I really like Vanessa Collier. She's a great artist that comes around the Bull Run every now and then.
Shamika.
Shamika Copeland's awesome.
Joanna Connor.
Joanne O'Connor is awesome.
Joanna. She's coming around here too.
She just did.
She was just here? I know she's around here.
A couple of months back.
Anna Popovic.
Was
a great one.
Who was
Samantha,
the singer of
Samantha Fish.
She's great too. Yeah.
that other band from the competition? Who?
That was Robin. Robin Hathaway.
She's amazing.
She's awesome.
Robin Hathaway.
Wow.
I tell you. I mean, that was a one-vote flip.
Yeah, I for sure.
was a one-vote flip.
I thought Robin was going to win it over us.
So did we.
She hit that high note during the Ronnie Wood cover, and I'm like, okay, we're going home.
That was a tough one. I think the differentiator on that, and again, I wasn't a judge, but I think one of the differentiations of that was that, they were a great show band. They're more of a show band, and I think that maybe they were looking at just that traditional, straight, go out there and play the blues and play it. I'm guessing on that, but they were really good. Even the other guys before that,
shout out to the Blues Mob. Those guys were
Blues
great.
Mob.
They're all good.
They're a local bar band. They play at Players. That's another place. You guys should get down to Players
We are.
on a Sunday.
That's the November 20th.
Yeah, November 20th.
playing.
We're going to be down.
Jim Rockwell booked you down there?
Yeah.
Boy, he worked fast. Did you know him?
Not until recently. Literally, actually, I think the first time I spoke to him was literally like a couple days after the challenge.
Yeah.
Are you going to be doing one of these with the One Dime Band?
Yes, I was with the
they
One
were
Dime
really
Band
good.
over the weekend. We went up
They
and
were
saw
really
Bob
good.
Wolfman's show, and they came over, and I hung around with them. Yeah, so we're going to book one of them. I'm waiting to hear back what their schedule is.
Yeah, we're really excited.
They were
They're going to
really
Memphis,
cool.
too.
They're awesome. Yeah.
They were really cool, but
And we should probably mention that we're playing a show with them, a fundraising show for the Memphis trip.
I was going to
Yeah,
get to
on
that.
the
So talk a
17th.
little bit about that. That's going to be what, the 17th, I
17th,
believe?
yeah.
The
The
17th at Soundcheck,
At Soundcheck in
Soundcheck
Pembroke.
Studio.
which is
Yeah.
a great venue.
What a
It's a
beautiful
it's a
venue.
very cool
Great venue.
Oh
I
my
love that
God.
little loft up there.
Great people, I think my wife did justice filming you guys.
Oh,
Yeah,
she was
Fine
wonderful.
job.
Awesome.
Fine job.
Awesome.
That was all Laura. She did that, and I
Shout
think
out
she
to
did a
Laura.
great job. Shout out to Laura. But yeah, and as far as people getting in touch with you guys,
Yeah.
how can they get in touch with you? You have
Well,
Facebook. And
So we have a Facebook.
we're going to put all this stuff on the screen.
Yeah, and all my social media I run directly. So if you comment or message our Facebook or Instagram, it'll be me directly. But yeah, at Matt Swanton Band for both Facebook and Instagram. TheMattSwantonBand.com.
Cool.
We're there.
Cool. Any individual stuff that that get a hold of you? Maybe your other bands or something. Or
I'm the Rob Kogut on Instagram.
Yep.
Rob JKO on TikTok.
He does some really great videos.
I do a lot of bits. I have this character Alpha Rob. He's my
Really good
favorite thing.
motivation.
Did you do something recently with construction or something? Did you do something funky recently? Was that you?
The other day I did apple
Was that
picking.
you? I saw that.
Great.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's a lot of it's how to do anything like an alpha. So I've done.
After I saw
apple
that, I
picking.
mean, it was almost going to be a duo on here instead of a trio. I did see that.
Alpha Rob's great. He comes out after a good workout when I've had a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
There's how to take a bubble
always.
bath like an alpha.
I saw that.
I taught people how to do sit-ups and got a couple thousand views on TikTok, and then it all kind of snowballed from there. But I have a lot of fun. But if you look me up as the
It's
Rob
so
Kogut,
good.
it pops
It's
up
just so
everywhere.
good.
Well, I'm going to throw one other thing at you, then we're going to move. I'm sure that people want to hear more of your music.
Absolutely.
You guys are going to. Well, I'll give you the advantage. I'll throw it back at you. I give you a hammer and a chisel.
All right.
And you have to carve your Mount Rushmore and put 4 people on there. Who are you going to put up there?
Like just music related,
Whatever
or
you want. Whoever's going to be up there.
okay. James Thomas, because he taught me. Absolutely love James. Bob Landry was a music teacher at my middle school. He's also the one who put me on to teaching at the jazz camp. Nothing without them. Really, Ringo Starr has to get his own head there because he's the guy who made me want to play drums. And, oh man, the last one is really, really tough. Screw it. Earl Sweatshirt. Best rapper on the planet right now.
Out of left field.
Yeah, he's the best.
I don't think we can compete with that.
I was going to
I
say.
just don't know what to say.
We can go home now.
I think we're done. Geez, I don't know. My dad.
Just don't say Puff Daddy or.
No. My dad would be up there. Passed away 12 years ago, and I miss him terribly.
Okay.
That being said, I don't know. Musicians-wise, like I said, Phil Lesh has always been
Sure.
kind of an
The dad,
an inspiration. Geez, I'm gonna have to think about this more. I don't know.
Come on,
There's
come
just
on.
so many people.
Yeah,
There's
forget
a
about
lot
your
of
mom.
good
I stayed up all night
I
thinking
was
of
trying
that
not to do the
question
whole
too.
family.
Don't let
There's
me
a lot of
down.
people I couldn't put up
letting
there.
us down.
It's the pressure's killing me. Jeez. Dwayne Allman.
Good choice.
Was that only 2? 3? That's 3. Got one more. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I just these are weird questions.
He wasn't
that I never
prepared
would
for
have
Put
thought
Matt
of.
Swanton up there. Come on.
I'll put Matt Swanton up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, that'll work.
That's too
Oh,
easy.
Thank you.
That was an easy one.
You had time to think about it. You're on the spot now, kid.
Oh man. Well, so let's see. Stevie Ray is the one that kind of really blew the doors open for me. Johnny Winter is probably my favorite slide player. Dwayne Allman would kind of be close there, but let's see.
He's
So
taken on mine.
Stevie Ray, Johnny Winter. Definitely have to put Peter Frampton on there, and then one more. So
Is there another Steve you might be forgetting?
honestly, what? Sorry, what?
Is there another Steve you might be
I
forgetting?
know what you're thinking.
All right, well, Steve, my manager, he's my mentor. If we're talking about purely guitar players, probably the fourth one would probably have to be Eric Johnson,
Eric Johnson.
because he was another one that kind of really blew open another door of like, oh, this is possible. Okay,
Cool.
So
Cool.
I'd probably have to say those 4 guitar players.
Yeah, you really should have prompted us on that question.
I told you I'd throw you a couple of curveballs.
That's one of them.
It's funny. I had when I do my
Think
sports
fast.
show. I had
can't do that
Joe
anymore.
Morgan. You baseball fans? Joe Morgan, the manager of the Morgan Magic for the Red Sox,
Yeah.
right? And Walpole Joe. I had him on there, and I asked him that question about baseball. Now he's a guy who was in the baseball for like 60 years. And I said, Joe, if I gave you the hammer and chisel, and I said, you got to build your Mount Rushmore. And he goes, he couldn't think of anything. They rattled off a couple of names. Then he looked at me, he goes, you stumped me, Frank. He goes, just like
That's how I
he goes, you stumped me, Frank. He goes, Bob Lobel told me that you should always get the questions beforehand. And I said, Joe, you're in the field. So I said, let me help you. I said, Ted Williams. Yeah, I'll put Ted up there. What about Mickey Mantle? I don't know about him. He goes, you stumped me. And he goes, I'm going to come back here and answer that question one day.
Hey,
And
if
it was
he's
like,
not sure
you
about
would
Mickey
think of
Mantle,
all-
he must have
you
seen
would
a
think
Bronx
of
Tale.
all people, right? Joe Morgan, who's Mr. Baseball, could not think of 4 people to put up there.
I mean, there's
Exactly what
there's
I
so many.
There's so many, so that's
There's so
why I
many.
think it's a good
I mean,
question.
I could create 100.
Of
Mount
course,
Rushmore lists,
that's why. But guys, this has been so much fun.
Oh, hell
This
yeah,
has
man.
been so much fun.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about, or bring anything up? Any questions I didn't ask I should have, or
Just how awesome are you, man?
how awesome I am?
Yeah.
Oh,
Appreciate you having us on.
the show's not long enough. Show's not long enough. I want to keep my audience. The 3 or 4 I have, I don't want to lose them.
Is that door locked? Is this a captive audience?
But no, it was great, and I want to thank you guys for being here.
No, thanks
and
for having us down. Absolutely.
we also have to give congratulations to our studio audience today.
Yes, absolutely.
We heard that they heard that you were going to be here. Some of them was at the event, and they said, "Wow, if they're playing, I got to go see them."
Oh, yeah.
So I want to give a big shout out to George Carr and Lynn and Debbie and Bob, who are sitting here over here, cheering you on, and they're going to be hopping and bopping when you play a little bit of more music.
Oh, yeah.
So, any particular places where you're going to be playing that you know of right now?
Yeah.
Other than sound check, we're going to get the sound check on the 17th.
On the 17th. So we got that jam on the 20th. And then, so let's see.
Stonecutters tomorrow.
Stonecutters. We're at Stonecutters tomorrow. Well, it won't be tomorrow.
Yeah, it'll be too late for that.
Yeah. So let's see. We're gonna be at the Bull Run November 9th. It's a Wednesday. December 10th, we're gonna be in Maynard at Bullspit Brewery.
Nice.
And then shooting out to the end of December on the 30th, we're gonna be in Vincent's and Worcester.
Nice.
So yeah, we'll be around. But we have all our dates are on the website, and we make events on Facebook.
Cool.
Too, so.
We'll put that up there.
Yeah.
So
Always
once
booking.
again, guys, it was a pleasure, and hopefully when you come back from Memphis, maybe you can come on another time, or I can meet you somewhere, and you can talk about your adventures down there.
Frank,
we'll come back with stories.
Me with a good time.
Don't threaten you with a good time. I like that. And you guys are going to have a great time. I really like your chances, and we wish you nothing but the best.
Thanks very much.
And again, thank you for coming on. And we couldn't do the show without the fine support of the people who are pushing the buttons and controlling the lights and making us look and sound pretty.
Oh, yeah.
So, I want to give a big shout out to Anya, who's the director of the ship here. She's running the ship.
Thank you,
and
Anya.
And her able crew. We have Rob and we have Luke, who've been pushing the buttons. So thank you guys. And most important, I want to thank you, the folks at home. And I always encourage you to get out there and support these musicians. Go to the clubs, go to the bars, go to the concert halls. They're there for you. Sometimes, you pay a couple of bucks to get in. Sometimes it might be buying a couple of drinks. But this is the type of talent who you're going to see when you're out there. So until then, for the Matt Swanton Band, the guest in the studio, everybody here at SMAC, I am Frank Walsh. Tune in and tune in.
Thank you, everybody at home. Now it's time to